everybody, and welcome back to the Blossom Review. How are you? Today we're discussing one of the latest J-dramas to be added to the Netflix catalog, TBS's very first 2025 mystery, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle, aka Kujaku no Densu Dare ga Mita. Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle is an adaptation of Asami Rito's manga of the same name, and it aired on TBS from January to March 2025. If you don't know anything about the series, this is a story of Yamashita Komugi, played by the great Hirose Suzu, a university student whose father, Yamashita Haruo, played by the great Lily Frankie as well, is a retired police officer. One night, Komugi becomes devastated as she arrives home to a building in flames and the news of her father's death. The culprit is soon arrested, but then things change when Komugi receives a letter that her father wrote before he was murdered, in which he declared that the person who has been arrested is actually innocent. This person has been framed. And then this letter also instructs her to partner up with Matsukaze Yoshiteru, played by Matsuyama Kenichi, a lawyer who will help her investigate the case. Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle is a slow-burning mystery that keeps all its answers hidden until its very last hour. Despite the flamboyance of its performances and the sporadic stilted dialogue, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle succeeds in proposing an intriguing enigma whose many layers slowly unravel throughout its 10 episodes. Quick note that this review is spoiler-free, so if you haven't watched the show, it's not a problem, don't worry, just follow me. At first, the series places you in a very uncomfortable spot. Why? Because Komugi, our female protagonist, is a meek young woman surrounded by mostly older men who think they can tell her what she should do or how she should feel all the time. She doesn't really put up a fight, and she often wavers before making any sort of decision. However, Komugi is given an excellent character arc in which we see her actions influence the plot and vice versa. Komugi changes bit by bit, becoming ever more independent, determined, and courageous. She might still be young, but she develops a stronger sense of identity and self-respect. The story constantly pushes her to rediscover, question, and recreate who she is. And this process is highlighted by a very significant, very symbolic scene in the second half of the show, one that marks the birth of a new Komugi, let's say. Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle quite literally allows Komugi to be reborn, and I think that's the most interesting aspect of the show. Actually, identity is a very, very important theme in Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle. Identity, fairness, and responsibility are all explored as the characters investigate the mystery of Haruo's death. Komugi needs to understand her father, his principles, and how far he was willing to go to show the responsibility for his actions. Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle actually portrays the police and the justice system very realistically, in a sense, as a system full of men whose motivations often include money, politics, and power. Female characters are few, but they are given very important, very powerful roles, really. And it's quite interesting to see that they are often the ones teaching lessons to older male characters who don't believe in their skills and intelligence. And so the crime itself is a tool through which the script questions the characters and their decisions, examining who they want, pretend, and need to be, and who they ultimately are. But these themes of responsibility, identity, and fairness are intrinsically linked to the theme of parenting, and more markedly, fatherhood, that lies in the very heart of this narrative. So, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle is fundamentally a series about fatherhood, about the mistakes, about the expectations, the miscommunication between fathers and their children. It's about parents who are always trying to protect their children in their own distorted way, and about their children as they learn to see their parents as imperfect human beings who should be offered help, understanding, and redemption at times. Even though most of the show focuses on this fragile bond between parents and children, often highlighting the struggles, the pain, and the disappointment that arises from this relationship, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle finds its emotional anchor in the extremely positive relationship between Haruo and Komugi. After the death of his wife, Haruo raised Komugi as a single father. Their bond is full of respect and gratitude, as Haruo is proud of being Komugi's father as much as Komugi is proud of being his daughter. They depend on, trust, and support each other, which actually ignites the inciting incident of this narrative. That is, Haruo wants to be a father worthy of Komugi's respect and affection, one who actively shows her the righteous principles that he would like her to stand up for. Indirectly, that's what leads to his death. By investigating the mystery behind the fire, Komugi is pushed into exploring their familial rapport as she tries to connect who her father was as an individual with who he was as a parent, as a father. In the end, Komugi's greatest discovery is that the relationship between parents and children has nothing to do with family registers or surnames. The relationship between parents and children are all about the care, the presence, and the love that they share. And I think this is very well illustrated by the final 10 minutes of the last episode. Those 10 minutes are particularly moving. And they also give the show, not just this illustration of this theme, but they also give the show the emotional payoff it requires. Another important dynamic in this story is the relationship between Komugi and Matsukaze, the lawyer who helps her. As Komugi faces her own character arc, her own personal character arc, their relationship also goes through an arc of sorts, let's say. Komugi and Matsukaze, they progressively become closer and more supportive of each other, coming to understand and appreciate each other's strengths and weaknesses. They can be very similar and yet completely different, and the quirkiness of their bond gives the show an element of fun, but it also allows these two characters to learn a lot from one another. Matsukaze actually is a vital contributor to Komugi's character arc and one of the very first to recognize and celebrate her growth. But it's important to mention that there is no romance between the two of them, guys. There is no romance in this show, so this is 100% platonic, and I am so glad they kept it this way. We don't need romance all the time. While the dialogue may be a little bit flawed, the premise is great, and the narrative may not be perfect, but it's very well structured. So, relying on a tragic mystery, the show introduces the audience to several elements and clues that slowly come together. Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle is the kind of show that takes its time to find its rhythm, but it undeniably becomes more and more intriguing with every episode. The script doesn't make use of violence or cruelty and instead counts on a guessing game of sorts. It constantly prompts the audience to question what happened and what's coming next. I, for one, was constantly trying to understand what was going on, and it was quite thrilling, let's say, to see that even though some of my guesses were correct, I was proven wrong several times too. So it was quite fun, this sort of game that the show plays with you. So with twists and turns, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle successfully manages to make most of its threads connect by the end of the story. Episode 9 deserves a special mention here as the most electrifying hour of the entire series, urging you to watch the finale. So it's an excellent, very, 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 very effective episode. And then in episode 10, even though there were some secondary characters who didn't really receive a nice and tidy ending, the show does provide answers to all its most important questions, and I think that's what matters most. Now, since the show keeps facts and identities hidden until the very end, episode 10 relies on a lot of expository dialogue, that is, dialogue composed of characters telling other characters what happened, which can be a bit exhausting and a bit blunt for the audience to watch. Something else that might stand out as a bit strange is the performances themselves. I mean, Hirose Suzu, Lily Frankie, and Matsuyama Kenichi are excellent. They give their characters very particular, very engaging personalities that are wonderful to watch. However, the rest of the cast, and we have some people here that I really love, but the rest of the cast offers very theatrical, very exaggerated performances that often make the show feel like a bit of an anime in style. Now, while these elements could have been approached differently, I still think that Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle still delivers what it promises through a convincing sequence of cause and effect, granting us a rewarding journey with a good heart deep down. Now, while the script may not be flawless, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle stands out for its clear visual identity. It's interesting to see how the cinematography and the directing of the show don't really follow the standard of Japanese television. Besides compositions and color palettes that serve the narrative perfectly, the show makes very good use of blurring to show isolation, internal conflict, and shock. I also love the dialogues at the prison because they constantly use reflections to establish connections between characters and to illustrate that these characters are actually reflections of one another. The show also counts on a lot of metaphorical sequences, let's say, that illustrate and effectively use the allegory that gives name to the show, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle. So all these elements infuse the series with a visual interest and sophistication that you don't often see in Japanese broadcasting. If you are familiar with J-dramas, you know that cinematography in Japanese television is very straightforward, it's very close to life, let's say. The compositions, the colors, they are very reality-based, let's say. And in this show, cinematography, photography is a lot more artistic, which was very, very nice to watch. So the question is, should you watch Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle? All in all, I think that Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle is a pleasant surprise. For a show that started timidly, just like its protagonist, it blossoms into an engrossing mystery as its episodes unravel. Despite its weaknesses, Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle counts on excellent cinematography, an intriguing mystery, and some very significant themes that might unexpectedly move you to tears by the end of its run. Just be sure that your patience and curiosity will be rewarded if you, like Matsukaze with Komugi, believe in the potential of this tale. Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle is on Netflix. Quick reminder that this review is also on the Blossom Review and that on Substack you can read our review of TVN's The Potato Lab. I'll leave all the links in the description. And tell me in the comments if you've watched Who Saw the Peacock Dance in the Jungle and what you thought of it. I really hope that you like the video and you subscribe so I can see you here next Thursday for another review. Take very good care of yourself and have a wonderful day today. Thank you so very much. Bye bye. I'll see you soon.